Single mother happily welcomes second child at 18, welcoming the second little angel. CEO, Hung and Tieu will name their child, what? The soft morning sun spilled gently over the quiet countryside road as the car rolled slowly toward home. Inside, Tieu sat in the passenger seat, cradling a tiny bundle in her arms. Her heart beat with a mix of disbelief and joy. At only 18, she was holding her second child, a miracle who had fought bravely to survive. Born prematurely, at just 1.5 kilograms, the baby had spent weeks in the hospital's warm embrace of incubators. Today, at a healthy 2.6 kilograms, he was finally coming home. Beside her, CEO Hung drove carefully, his eyes often darting to the rearview mirror, as if guarding not only the road but the fragile piece in the car. "We'll take it slow," he said softly. "I don't want either of you getting tired." His voice was warm, steady, a quiet reassurance that had carried Tieu through sleepless nights and anxious days. The road home felt like a ribbon tying together their shared hardships and silent promises. When they arrived, Hung didn't let her lift a finger. He prepared warm milk, arranged a new set of blankets for the baby, and made sure the house felt safe and soft for his two most precious people. Later, the door opened to the sound of small footsteps. Han, Tieu's first child, running in. At first, Han froze at the sight of the tiny baby in her mother's arms, eyes wide with curiosity and something like jealousy. Hung crouched down, smiling, guiding Han closer. "This is your little brother," he said gently. "He's going to need his big sister's love." Slowly, Han reached out a small hand, touching the baby's fingers. A shy smile bloomed across her face. That night, when the house had settled into a tender silence, Hung and Tieu sat beside the crib, watching the baby's chest rise and fall. His little face was peaceful, his lips parting in a soft sigh. Hung turned to her, his voice low, as if afraid to wake their sleeping miracle. "What should we name him?" Tieu's eyes glistened. "A name that means hope and new beginnings." Hung took her hand in his, the weight of the moment pressing into his heart. "Then let's give him a name that will remind us of how far we've come, and how strong love can be." Outside, the night wrapped around their small home, carrying the promise of a future they would build together, one where this little boy's name would be spoken with pride, and where the story of his arrival would always be told as a tale of love's quiet triumph. The lamp by the crib cast a soft golden glow, tracing delicate shadows across the baby's tiny face. Tieu leaned closer, brushing a fingertip over the soft curve of his cheek. Her heart swelled with the same fierce tenderness she had felt the first time she held Han, only now it was doubled, stretching wider than she thought possible. "I want his name to mean light," she whispered, eyes still fixed on him. "Because after everything, he is the light that found us." Hung studied her for a long moment, his gaze filled with unspoken admiration. Then, "How about Min An?" he suggested softly. "It means bright peace. A light that calms the storm." Tieu's lips curved into a smile, the kind that carried both gratitude and relief. "Min An," she repeated, letting the syllables linger in the air. The baby stirred, as if recognizing the sound meant for him. Hung's hand closed gently over hers, sealing the choice without another word. In the days that followed, their small home became a world of gentle routines and quiet joy. Hung woke early to prepare breakfast and warm bottles. Han learned how to hold her brother carefully, always watching for the tiny kicks and sleepy smiles. Tuika, though still recovering, found strength in the way her family moved together, like pieces of a puzzle, finally falling into place. Hung's chest tightened. He met Tieu Circa's eyes across the room, and in that shared glance, they both knew this was more than just a family by name. This was a family born from choice, from resilience, and from a love that had weathered too many storms to be anything but unbreakable. That night, while the rain tapped gently against the windows, Hung whispered to the sleeping baby in his arms, "You'll never have to wonder if you're loved, Min An. We fought for you before you were even here. And we'll keep fighting, always." Outside, the rain washed the earth clean, and inside, a quiet promise wrapped itself around them, one that would carry them into every tomorrow. The following morning, sunlight spilled gently through the sheer curtains, casting warm patterns across the floor. Lai Tayuka awoke to the faint sound of baby breaths beside her. Min An lay peacefully in his crib, his tiny fingers curled, his chest rising and falling in a perfect rhythm. Hung was already up, moving quietly around the kitchen. The smell of rice porridge drifted into the room, mixed with the faint aroma of freshly brewed tea. Tuka slipped out of bed, her steps soft, not wanting to wake the baby. When she reached the kitchen, she found Hung wearing an apron, sleeves rolled to his elbows, carefully chopping vegetables. Han sat on a stool nearby, humming a little tune, while arranging slices of fruit on a plate. "You're up early," Tayuka said softly, leaning against the doorway. Hung looked up with a warm smile. "We let you sleep a little longer. You need rest." He glanced at the pot. "Breakfast will be ready soon. After we eat, I thought we could take the kids for a walk by the river. The air is fresh today." Her heart melted at the simple suggestion. For so long, her days had been filled with worry, survival, and uncertainty. Now, there was space for moments like this, moments that felt ordinary, yet priceless. Later, they strolled along the quiet riverbank. Han skipped ahead, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers she had picked from the grass. Hung carried Minan in a sling close to his chest, the baby's head nestled under his chin. "Look, Mommy," Han called, pointing to a butterfly that landed on a yellow blossom. Twitchy Ka knelt beside her daughter, watching the delicate wings tremble in the breeze. "It's beautiful," she said, then glanced toward Hung. He stood a few steps away, smiling at them both, his eyes filled with something steady and unshakable. For the first time in a long time, Tuka felt the weight of her past beginning to fade. This was their present, and it was enough. That night, after both children had fallen asleep, Hung sat beside Tayuka on the couch. The soft hum of the ceiling fan filled the silence. "You know," Hung began, his voice quiet, "I used to think success was measured in money, business deals, and titles. But now, it's this. Seeing you smile. Watching Han draw pictures of our family. Hearing Min An breathe while he sleeps." Tieu Circa's eyes softened. She reached for his hand. then let's promise to protect this, no matter what comes. Life has a way of testing us with storms, before granting us the calm. Tieu's journey was proof that even in the face of youth, hardship, and doubt, love can create a home where safety once felt impossible. She had faced the world as a single mother at 18, carrying not only the weight of her own dreams, but also the fragile hopes of two small lives. From her story, we learn that family is not built solely from blood or perfection, but from choice and devotion. CEO Hung could have walked away, keeping his life free from responsibility. Instead, he chose to stay, to build, to hold Tieu's hand through sleepless nights and quiet mornings. His actions reminded us that love is not only spoken, it is shown in the smallest gestures, repeated every day. We also see that joy is often found in the simplest things: a walk by the river, a warm breakfast, the steady breathing of a sleeping child. True happiness does not demand wealth or grand gestures. It lives in moments we protect fiercely. The greatest lesson is this: life will not always wait for us to be ready. Sometimes, blessings arrive in the middle of our struggles, asking us to grow faster than we think we can. But if we meet them with courage and kindness, those blessings become the very reason we survive the storm. In the end, love is not about avoiding hardship, it is about facing it together. And when we do, even the smallest home can hold the greatest treasure: a family that refuses to give up on each other.